to Movies That Matter, a podcast about recent films going above and beyond the call of box office returns to boldly explore a social issue affecting people's lives. I'm Nicole Finari.
And I'm Stacey Moore.
And this week we're going to overanalyze The Founder. So The Founder is the story of Ray Kroc, a salesman who turned two brothers' innovative fast food eatery, McDonald's, into one of the biggest restaurant businesses in the world with a combination of ambition, persistence, and ruthlessness. So, Stacey, what did you think of the movie?
It was fine. I feel like, okay, so there's
That's
nothing...
some damning with
I know.
right there.
Right, yeah. I don't want to gush too much. It was... I don't have anything like bad to say about the movie itself. I just feel like in general, I wasn't sure, as I was watching it, I wasn't sure it actually needed to be a movie. I felt like as I was watching it there in the theater and, you know, this darkened room with this giant screen, I was kind of thinking, this feels more like a Netflix original to me. Mm-hmm. At most.
Okay.
And, like, I felt like the story could have actually been just as effectively served as, like, a This American Life episode. Like, it's just like a, you know, full hour audio documentary. Like, it didn't really need to be a movie.
Okay, I can see that. I found that the editing was so frenetic. It was shortcut to shortcut to shortcut, like, cut. The camera never lingered on anything. So I found that the editing just gave it this really amateurish quality. So I think that was part of it. It was like there was almost no artistry to how they told the story. Yeah. So I can see that complaint. I don't know that the story necessarily could have been told better. I thought the performances were good.
Oh, absolutely. Can we, you know, take a second to appreciate the cast?
Yeah, the cast was good.
Nick Offerman, who is...
Oh, he was the best.
Right?
And that, like, the one scene of them on the tennis court. So
absolutely.
They like, map out the layout of the restaurant on this tennis court, and then they're just sort of dancing around it, trying to figure out with their employees, like how to...
ballet choreographers.
Yeah. How to set up the kitchen for it to be the most efficient. And I'm like, that scene had music and it was like choreography. And I thought, oh, that's really great.
It was the one scene that actually used the film medium to its best advantage. Yeah.
And like the random montage of the like church city hall that he then later explains, like while you're watching the montage go by. It's so static and awful. It's like, steeple building. I'm like, why am I watching this?
Yeah, and hit like reverse cutting to him looking through his windshield. And we're like, right, we see him looking at a steeple.
Yeah.
Oh, now he's looking at a flagpole.
Yeah, it was...
And then later on he goes, so I was looking at steeples and flagpoles earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
We're like, this is riveting. And to anyone who was like disappointed that Michael Keaton didn't get an Oscar nomination or any kind of nomination for this role, I was like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
He was playing himself in a boring movie.
Yeah, this was not the role to do it.
Right.
This was not the role to get him the Oscar.
Birdman, this ain't. Well, he was he was playing himself. That could be why he won.
But
John Carroll Lynch, right?
Was great.
One of my favorite people. Like
Laura Dern was really good.
Yeah.
Surprising role for her. Just kind of the sad, quiet, out of touch wife. Like that's not something she usually plays. It was nice to see her doing something different.
Yeah, she's normally kind of like a manic pixie type.
Yeah, very much. Still just like Linda Cardellini. Always have, always will.
Sure. I mean, her role was so, like, as they say, thankless. Like, she's like, I'm beautiful love interest, and made the exact same placid yet seductive smile the entire movie.
Actually, that's interesting. I one of the things I liked about the movie was they set it up as her actually having some business smarts, and that he's attracted to her because she has this idea of how to save money, and she's reading restaurant trade association magazines. And when he's looking for people to set up the franchises in the beginning, he likes the couples where the wife is just involved in the franchise as the men. So I do feel like they set it up that the reason he doesn't like his original wife is because she's sort of uninterested in taking part in all his schemes.
Yeah, and being his partner.
Right. And that he actually wanted somewhat of a more equal relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that's true as well. But she does kind of embody, I think, one of the few examples of kind of visual, not symbolism. I remember this from film class. It's not symbolism, it's signifiers.
Okay.
Is she kind of represents like the temptation in the Garden of Good and Evil. Right. She's always wearing red. And in particular when she, tempts him with the fake milkshake. Right. That is like the beginning, like the fall of man, like when McDonald's really becomes like fake fast food that completely different from what it was originally meant to be. Like that's kind of her role. It's like she's Eve, right? Right. With the apple.
No, it's a good point. Yeah. I didn't see that in it when I watched it, but that's exactly how it is. I just like her as a temptress, just it falls flat to me. But I'm told by male friends that I'm wrong. She actually is appealing.
Right.
I don't see it, but that's okay.
Sometimes I don't have to be informed. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But so there were a couple things about sort of the myth of McDonald's in the movie that to me were really jarring. In that, first of all, immediately, like when he goes up the first time to get, the burger, the fries, and the drink, my first thought immediately on him getting his order was that cup's too big. I was like, there's no way that cup size, that's what a cup size for a soda at McDonald's is now. There's no way it was that big in 1954. I don't believe it. And I looked it up and the original cup size was 7 ounces.
Oh, okay.
And that was like a 14-ounce cup.
Not even a whole cup.
Yeah, exactly. It's tiny. It's like a little tiny, one of those little tiny mini styrofoam. Yeah. And I'm like...
children's size.
And so that makes me wonder, like, did McDonald's insist that they couldn't show how small the original portions were?
That would have been so funny, though.
Because of how bad it would make them look now.
Yeah, possibly. It was interesting to watch this origin story of a brand that is so ubiquitous and that we all recognize. Right? So it felt like I was watching the origin story of a villain, like back when he was still kind of a fresh-eyed scientist before his lab accident.
Yeah, how did you feel about him as a character?
Oh, Michael Keaton?
Yeah, Ray Kroc. Like, how did you, like, as...
I guess I meant more as, like, McDonald's as an entity.
Okay.
So, like, seeing that it actually started out as a family-run business with two brothers and who just really wanted to make a great burger, like the best fries they could possibly make. And the milkshakes all came from ice cream and like they were so dedicated. And then to see like that would one day, like you just wanted to see how it happened that one day it became this monstrosity of just synthetic food.
Right.
Kind of delivered haphazardly to the masses.
Yeah, and, the movie definitely tells the tale, and it's more or less true. There's obviously each of the parties, the McDonald brothers and Ray Kroc, has a different version of that origin story.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it more or less matches up, the movie matches up to, like, what you can know about it. And it definitely paints Ray Kroc as the villain of the piece, for sure. I don't know, did you start out rooting for him as this, like, scrappy salesman who can't sell these, like, milkshake mixers? Or were you just, like, did you just not care about him at all?
I did have a hard time. I didn't... When we watch him struggling, like when he mortgages the house and whatnot, I did feel for him. Mm-hmm. But I didn't at any point want to root... I didn't like the idea of watching these two really kind-hearted brothers lose everything they had worked for. Not lose, but... Well, I guess eventually they do, right? Ultimately, they actually do lose, like, the flagship store and...
Yeah, apparently, according to the real story, they had already passed that store on. They had already retired when this all went down, and then they had negotiated the license to the name with him. But they did... I mean, they are bitter about it, and they did not set out for him to do to McDonald's and for him to take all the credit. And, the title of the movie, The Founder, really is like the crux of the story. Like he's not the founder of McDonald's.
Right.
They are the McDonald's brothers. It was their idea.
Mm-hmm. And one of them is named Mac, and he is big.
Yeah.
Which was the best part for me.
Yeah.
That out.
I like sort of three-dimensional villain stories, and I like villain stories where the person is meant to be a villain. Like I mean, I think we talked before. Like I'm so tired of like the anti-hero, the protagonist who's actually just a jerk, and you're like, this person's a jerk. They cheat on their wife, or they're doing something terrible, and I don't want to root for them. And this, like,
you start out knowing that he's not such a great guy. You're just going to follow through with him.
Yeah, and he's not meant to be a good guy, and you're not. And in fact, interestingly enough, it's not even his. He isn't even the one who figures out how to make money off of the deal that he's made.
That's right.
It's his, accountant, whatever.
Sonborn.
Yeah, who figures out to own.
And then
the
a
land.
year later, they had a falling out as well.
Yes, they did. I saw that.
Shocker.
Yeah, honestly, like he is pretty cutthroat, and in the true story, like a lot of people left unhappily. Oh, but the secretary. His secretary, who's with this, poor, somewhat downtrodden woman in the beginning, he's a not very successful independent salesman. And she's sort of stuck in the office dealing with all his crap and his lack of success. She eventually becomes, I forget what position in McDonald's, but cashes out.
He was high up there.
Yeah, a hefty millionaire herself. So actually,
that's good.
Her loyalty is rewarded. And that the story of the kid on the line, he actually takes over as like the first CEO when Ray Kroc leaves of McDonald's.
Wow.
So
like just from literally flipping burgers.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's sort of, dare I say, Trump-like, where like extreme loyalty is rewarded at all costs, right? Like even if you're, not to say these people weren't qualified in their own right, but it's like if you cross him, it's scorched earth. But if you stick by him, like
you will be handsomely rewarded.
You will be handsomely rewarded with, your own federal agency to run and or the entire world of foreign policy. So
does Ray Kroc then symbolize or signify? Does he signify the American dream of middle class kind of giving way to straight up inequality? Like just kind of eventually shifting into just haves and have-nots?
I think, yes. I think the missing element is the ruthlessness, though. Like the movie definitely portrays it as nice guys don't get ahead. The American dream is somewhat of a fallacy in the sense of, the brothers are extremely successful on their own and they do just fine. They aren't able to successfully franchise the model because they don't know how to run that aspect of it. They tell them that they tried and that the restaurants failed. And that's also true. But it's his like sort of cutthroatness that takes it to the next level. And I think, it's a very pointed commentary on corporate America and what it takes to be in that world versus just be relatively successful.
I think it is key that this shift takes place in the nuclear age, right? We're going from the kind of the nostalgic look back at what American culture is of the family and church and patriotism and good food,
Yeah.
And at that time, those days were over. We had just had World War II. The Henry Ford model of production had launched the U.S. into this whole other ballgame of GDP. And technology had moved forward so quickly because of the research done during the war, right? Be it the atom bomb or a fake milkshake, that there was no going back to that sort of wholesome organic time almost is what I feel like is what they were kind of trying to get at. And so here were these two brothers actually living out what we like to think of as the American dream. Pick yourself up, by your bootstraps, take your good idea, change it as needed, right? Like they experimented with the tennis court scene and then just work really hard and be good to your people and make a great product and, think of your customer. Everything will turn out great. But Ray Kroc was like the way of the future, right? It was the new America of just commodify it. Just commodify it and homogenize it and go global.
Yeah.
And that's basically what we've done ever since.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. But I do think it was interesting in the story and in real life. The movie does stress, he has a line in there jokingly, one of the brothers says, so yeah, after about 30 years, we became an overnight success. And they have like failed businesses that they had. And, you know, when they originally opened their restaurant, it didn't do very well. And then they changed the model. And we had businesses that had failed before that. He obviously has been struggling for years with highs and with lows, things he's tried to sell that weren't good ideas. So on the one hand, it is a pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But on the other hand, it does represent that, like, to be successful in business, you will have to have as many failures as, you know, you have successes, which I appreciated that it wasn't like, I'm amazing and I'm such a genius. Like, I just came up with this idea and it was great. Like, they actually show the backstory that both of them had tried and failed at a lot of different things before this came along. But yeah, I mean, I think the idea that you have values and that you're trying to create this quality product, and he, to your point, in terms of a commentary about our age, like he comes in and he tries to sell them on the experience of McDonald's, right? Which they keep talking about, the millennials want experience. So they want their, was it Urban Outfitters to have like a cafe in it or something? Like they want experiences, not just shopping. So it's like we're on to the next wave.
I've heard about this, right?
Personally, I don't care if there's coffee with my clothes or not. And, you know, I'm happy somebody created.
I just need a shirt and some socks.
I'm all about the commodification. I just want Amazon.
Right. Yeah. Ship to my door, please. But that's what he is focused on.
Yeah. And so to your earlier point, though, I mean, they, on the one hand, they're telling a story about basically three men, you know, two brothers and Ray Kroc, and how they developed this business model. But on the other hand, McDonald's itself, the entity of McDonald's, is very much a character in the story. And that's what drew me to this movie, because I had done a lot of research on McDonald's when I was in socially responsible investing. And I'm like really interested in, you know, the obesity and nutrition research. So how do you feel they portrayed McDonald's in this movie?
Tragically.
Yeah.
That was my feeling coming out of it, was how sad that it could have been, or it was at one point, this, what I now think of as, oh gosh, I'm going to say something that a lot of my friends may not care for. Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
I feel, regardless of what the staff and owners do with their personal money, Chick-fil-A is a damn fine establishment. They reward their people.
Stacey, your Southern is showing.
I know. I'm from Georgia. Yeah, they care about, like, the chicken in those sandwiches comes from chickens, damn it. And it has not been pulverized or processed. It is like hunks of chicken. The fries are hunks of potato that have been put through a waffler. Like, yeah, you know, and that's what McDonald's used to be, apparently, which was shocking to me. It was really, really amazing to see, like, oh my God, they used to just really care. And there was real ice cream and the milkshakes and et cetera. And to see that where it went was just so sad. It was just so sad.
Yeah, I mean, and I definitely think the movie's trying to make that point. Like, there's a great line in there when the brothers are arguing against the fake milkshake, the use of the fake milkshake, which, for those who haven't seen the movie, it's going to save everybody so much money on refrigeration costs, which basically make the milkshakes horribly unprofitable. When they're talking about it, there's a line from the Nick Offerman brother where he's like, what's next? Frozen French fries and blah, blah, blah. And like, so they definitely slip things in there. So I definitely think the movie does make a pretty pointed commentary. Although, again, the cup size thing, I just kept fixating on it because I was like, that's a lie. That's a lie that you're telling people, because those cups were not that big in that day. On the other hand, McDonald's literally does represent commodification and globalization, right? No, you can't think of a single other company that represents that more. And because it is the biggest and it is the well-known, to a certain extent, from my research that is admittedly out of date, and I didn't have time to update myself on it, because McDonald's is the biggest and the best known, it's the target for every divist movement that comes along. So it was McDonald's who, when everything was in styrofoam packaging and people complained, they were the first ones to switch to cardboard. They were the first one to add salads on their menu. They were the first ones to put healthier options in the kids' meal. Like, because they're always the focus of the attacks, they're actually always the first to change and to make progress, which I think they don't get enough credit for. Like, Burger King is allowed, and Wendy's are allowed to sort of lag behind, and they're less progressive than McDonald's. The other thing also kind of bothers me about all the McDonald's hatred. I was at a happy hour many years ago. It was all, us coastal elite, well-traveled, cosmopolitan types sitting around talking at this happy hour. And this one woman says something like, yeah, and then, I had to ditch my friend because she went to a McDonald's. Like, who goes to a McDonald's in another country?
Oh, okay, sorry, I won't interrupt your story. I want to say it's the best.
No, that is my story.
Oh, great.
Where I interrupted and I was like, I always go to McDonald's in other countries.
You gotta find out what they're serving in there.
They're
it's crazy.
Totally, for the symbol of commodification and globalization, they're totally local. They source everything locally. You smash a McDonald's in France, you are hurting French farmers. Like, all of that stuff comes from France. It's unshipped from America overseas. And yeah, like, they had weird fish sandwiches in Japan. They had like McFalafel.
I used to love to get my cup of corn in China.
Yeah.
I love getting my cup of corn. You can get like I don't know, what do they have? Like sesame seed flavored milkshakes in Kuala Lumpur. It's bonkers.
I'm like, you're an idiot. And I make it a point to go to McDonald's when I'm in other countries because the menus are different and they are local. And it's really interesting to see what McDonald's looks like in other places. So I definitely feel like it doesn't always deserve its bad rap, and that the company or that the movie tried to, I don't know, I felt like it didn't really try to sell me on the, like, it's really about community and family in America. Like that, I feel like they played for irony, and then they played they played it straight on all the negative aspects. I don't know. I feel like the movie hated McDonald's for sure.
Oh, I think so. I do feel like the American metaphor can carry through because McDonald's is what it is, right? It's a global force. America's a global force. Maybe we mean well at times, but we get it wrong. But we bring smiles to millions, like you can hate it or love it or just accept it for what it is, which is a huge success. And, that's nothing to sneeze at. Like that's what they've done is amazing.
What they've done is amazing. And for a long time, that was a lot of minorities' tickets to success. Like, if you were someone who had kind of actually been a rags to riches stories, a lot of, athletes, like one of the things that a lot of people invested their money in was McDonald's franchises.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it did help a lot of, lower income or people who came from straitened circumstances, like stabilize for the next generation's wealth. But at the same time, like, I felt like the big swing and the miss for me on the criticism of McDonald's is like they talk about the food quality. Like, oh, frozen French fries, the horrors. I'm like, maybe just French fries, the horrors. Like, you serve a hamburger. Like, there's, like, no vegetables. I'm not counting potatoes as a vegetable. Right. Like, you're not serving anything healthful at the original McDonald's either. Like, you can't sell... You can sell it on high-quality junk food, but it's still junk food. Like, there aren't salads or, like, vegetables or anything.
I did love the scene where he points to the lettuce. As if it were a dead rat.
Yeah.
He's like, what is this? What is this lettuce doing on my burger?
Which just would make me wonder, like, when did lettuce get on the burgers? Like, when did the Big Mac come in? I kind of wanted I wanted the Big Mac's origin story. Like,
yeah, right.
And actually, Ronald McDonald apparently came in the 60s with the kids' meal.
I felt like the second wife kept reminding me of Ronald McDonald.
Oh, ouch.
Right?
The red?
The red and yellow.
yellow.
Right? She was covered in red and yellow. Like, her hair is yellow. And she always wears red and has bright red lipstick and just, like, this kind of that cap shape to her hair.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of Ronald McDonald to me. I kind of figured it was supposed to be, she was supposed to be the stolen wife, likened to the stolen idea of McDonald's. Like, the Ray Kroc just sort of, he didn't like anything he had.
Yeah.
So he just kind of looked around and saw what looked good and just took it.
Yeah. Although, I think...
Who would leave Patrick Wilson for Michael Keaton?
That was a harder sell for me.
I was
having a really difficult
ludicrous
time of believing that she would leave her husband for Michael Keaton.
That Michael Keaton could turn anyone's head from Patrick Wilson. It's the second he came on the screen, my heart skipped. Like, I think I even had like a sharp intake of breath, and I was like, oh my God, Patrick Wilson's in this? There's no way. There's just no way.
Yeah. That part seemed a little unreal. Back to the sort of the nutrition and the nuclear age thing. I mean, that it isn't directly McDonald's fault. I think it's all those forces that you just mentioned, but like that is when the obesity epidemic like began. Like when now we have a third of our children in America are obese, which is shocking. It's sort of plateaued. People aren't actually...
Has it? Oh,
more people aren't getting fatter, which is good.
We've stabilized.
We've more or less stabilized, but I don't know.
Good old-fashioned body image issues.
Yeah, I know. Well, and so then, yeah, that's actually not something I'd thought of, but like the fat shaming and the backlash against...
It was actually all started by the CDC.
Was it?
No.
Okay.
Could have been.
There.
Maybe it was.
Well, no, but I actually read an interesting article about Michelle Obama's like stealth Let's Move campaign.
Oh yeah, give me 5.
Yeah.
Totally.
Which was like called Let's Move and as a literal way to detract from the fact that she was in fact going to go after the food industry. Like,
oh, I see.
She was like, oh, it's all about kids moving. And that was so not her agenda. But she knew if she was like, I'm going to get school lunches cleaned up, it would have been an overwhelming, massive force. And so it was like a political maneuver to like clean school lunches up.
Oh, clever.
Yeah.
Clever.
But I don't know. So, like, what were your school lunches like? What was your school food
our
like?
School lunches? Don't get me started. It was basically, it was either like a fake kind of flimsy burger or fake, like chicken nuggets that basically were filled with white paste.
Oof.
And a bread roll and a carton of milk. So I would generally not order the lunches because they made me want to hurl. And I would just get like 8 of the bread rolls and a carton of milk. And then everyone else started doing it. And they ran out of bread rolls. And then they wouldn't let us do it anymore. And they're like, you have to, if you want to.
You started a movement, Stacey.
I know, but it backfired on me. I was like, you guys ruined this for me. I was actually quite happy with my just pile of bread rolls and my little carton of milk.
That's fascinating.
So that was, it was pretty atrocious where I grew up.
So I was raised by the food police, as I call them. My mother made everything from scratch. Like we were the weird kids with the real fruit roll-ups that got made fun of because like our fruit roll-ups looked weird because they didn't look like.
Oh, are we talking? Wait, I just want to make clear that was like the cafeteria lunch I was talking about.
Right.
Okay, I was not dissing my mom's lunches. She would cut our sandwiches into hearts.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I'm not clear. I'm saying like the food. So
yeah.
I was raised by the food police, and our school lunches were fine. I mean, it was a lot of pizza and stuff like that. When I was in high school, they actually had like really good deli sandwiches and like a really good macaroni salad.
Wow, really?
That I used to get all the time. So like for someone who was raised by the food police, I already had like a really good sense of nutrition, and our school lunches weren't that bad. We also, during the school day, we didn't have any vending machines that sold candy. And we didn't have any vending machines that sold soda.
No.
You were only...
Where was this?
White Plains, New York. Our vending machines only had bottled water or like juice.
Stop.
You couldn't get a Coke in my school during the day. There was like a little after school canteen, like after school hours were officially over. So we had zero sponsorship by any beverage company. And
It's amazing.
And it's funny how, when you're a kid, you're like, this is what the world looks like because this is the only world you know. And then you get out in the world and you're like, this is what other people eat at school. Like, oh my God, no wonder you're all so fat. Like,
it's terrifying. I literally, one day, I think they ran out. This could have just been Georgia. I'm not sure. I love my home state of Georgia, but they one time gave us like 2 packets of sauce, of like sauces, of like a yellow sauce and a red sauce, and some like those little like kind of little sticks, little tiny little mass-produced breadsticks, and that was it.
Yikes!
Yeah, things were hard down south.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So I did feel like the commentary about the low quality of the McDonald's food just sort of skirted the larger issue that, regardless of the quality, again, it had no nutritional value, and that McDonald's really brought the eating out and eating because it was cheap, like eating food that is not good for you to the world. And I don't, probably somebody else would have done it if it hadn't been McDonald's, but that, to me, that's the McDonald's legacy.
Sure. It's just eating something that doesn't nourish you at all. Although I guess they never intend, and this is always the argument from the lobbyists, right? Is that they never intend for that to be your diet. It's supposed to be, like, I think it was
special
intended,
occasion food.
Precisely. Like I don't go to Baskin Robbins for nutrition either.
Right.
I don't go there at all anymore because there's not one around here. But when I was a kid, like we didn't go for dinner. We went for ice cream. If I was eating ice cream 3 times a day for my meals, things would not be so good for me. And so I think like I don't think they meant for people to be eating their burgers and fries like the way that we do now.
Right.
Statistically.
Right. And then, and whether or not they meant it, they certainly have been complicit in the increase of amount of food. So there was
how do you mean?
Like the portion size, like
sure.
The cups were not that big, and it's like then what did the super size come in the 90s when you were like already that was a massive amount of calories, and then you were going to get like more fries and a gigantic soda. Like they've definitely been complicit in getting people to eat larger quantities of food,
huge, vast quantities,
reformatting in our heads like what a healthy amount of food is to eat at any given time has definitely been something McDonald's contributed to, which I take, I love McDonald's. The one exception to the frickin' food police, which is hilarious because my mom lived in Oklahoma and the food was crap and you couldn't eat barbecue every single day. So she that's where she discovered McDonald's. So she definitely, as a special treat, would take us to McDonald's as kids.
Oh yeah.
So we had the real fruit roll-ups and the Big Mac.
What describe a real fruit roll-up to me?
Oh, it's like lumpy because it's like
from like actual fruit.
Because it's from fruit. So yeah, I like McDonald's. I've always been a healthy weight. I've always been able to eat in moderation, but not everybody can. And it is very hard, to think about what a proper amount of food to eat is when the pictures that you see of what a full meal looks like are huge. And so there was a report that just came out I was reading where they were talking about if people's eating habits have changed, and they were like, yes, people are eating a lot more fat, getting a lot more calories from fat than they used to, in the 1970s, but at the same time, they're just eating more. So we weren't super healthy in the 70s and eating a ton of vegetables. We're actually eating more vegetables now, but we're eating more of everything. Portion sizes have just gotten insane. To me, that's the damaging legacy of McDonald's. It's just forcing people to adjust their taste to huge quantities of food that has very little nutritional value.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, on that happy note,
thanks, McDonald's.
Yeah. Do you want to give the movie The Founder a social impact score where, I'll explain the scale. One is, has no dealt with no important social issues and was a terrible movie to boot. 10 was amazing exploration of something that deeply affects people and was an amazing movie also.
As far as like for impact, I'm gonna say like a 2.
Okay.
Maybe a 3 if just for John Carroll Lynch's performance in it, because he's great. Yeah,
I'm so impressed you know that dude's name.
Oh, I had to look it up.
Okay.
No, he was that guy to me for a long time.
He's still that guy to me. Like, I'm like,
he
what?
was for sure that guy. I had to look it up.
He is almost like, I guess Stephen Tobolowsky is like the quintessential that guy, but this guy...
Which one was he? Is he the one we talked about last time?
Oh, he's just character actor. The guy who keeps stepping in the puddle in Groundhog Day.
Oh. Oh, man. I gotta go back and watch that. But yeah, no, I would recommend anyone go back and watch. Oh, I should have looked up the name of... There's a Walking Dead episode that John Carroll...
More with the Georgia Stacy.
I know. It's in me. It's in me, I guess. You can tell from my accent, right? But he's in one like sort of bottle episode, and it's actually the best episode I think of the series. It's really, really beautiful, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the movie made $15 million, 14 gross worldwide. I don't think a huge number of people went and saw it. Like, yeah, I'm back to 2. It was a 2.
Okay. I give it a 3. I think I like the movie a little bit better than you did. You can't give Michael Keaton enough roles for me. Like, I love Michael Keaton. He can do anything. He can be funny. He can be weird. He can be a straight man. You know, he can be normal. Like,
he can fly.
He's just great. Like, he is such a versatile actor. And yeah, I think it was trying to be somewhat critical of corporate America and the ruthlessness that it takes to be in corporate America. But I think the message of the 2 humble brothers that get screwed over isn't maybe the best way to tell that story. But I don't know. But you're right. Like, it's, again, a lot of critical acclaim for... I did read Run Review. I have my notes if anybody wants to check, where the first thing I wrote down about the movie after I saw it was frenetic editing. And there was actually a reviewer, I think it was the New York Times, who was like, oh my God, that editing was the worst. It was so choppy. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm not the only person who noticed that. So like, yeah, I don't know much about the director, but I just don't think that he did a very good job.
It was John Lee Hancock.
Really?
And I only remember that because it sounded like a president's name to me.
Yeah.
Like a founding father.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything else about him, though.
A Hamilton cast member. One of the two.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so sort of I feel like it's funny. I feel like we're striking out on our like fact versus fiction stories. Like, we didn't like War Dogs either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So on to things that we do like. Recommendations for the week.
I'd like to recommend Dear White People.
Oh, I saw that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Okay. My black friends took me to see it. I was the white person they took to see it.
That must have been very rewarding.
Yeah, I'm sure they felt great about themselves. Shout out to them if they're listening.
Yeah. I just for anyone who hasn't seen it, I actually literally thought it was going to be like a 2-hour long sort of soliloquy to white people. Mm-hmm. But it's actually just the name of a radio show that this student is an Ivy League college has, where she addresses white people and their stereotypes and their sort of semi-racist tendencies. But it's actually quite entertaining and heartfelt. It's a story about 4 black students at an Ivy League school and trying to come to grips with and kind of hash out what their identities are as black people, black individuals in this society that they find themselves in. And I just found it's really funny and really sweet and terrifying.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have another Netflix recommendation. Sorry, everybody. I am a knitter. And I watch TV while I knit, and I've had this baby sweater to finish, so I've been like hardcore hitting the Netflix over the weekends. Yeah. And I've been like binge watching things. So I have to the series of Unfortunate Events. It's
wait, that's a series now.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The Neil Patrick Harris performance is fantastic. Longtime fan of Patrick Warburton, who, just his voice is so amazing and distinctive, and he plays the narrator as Lemony Snicket, and he's like so many cartoon characters because that voice is just so great. The kids are good, the baby is adorable but not annoying, and just the art direction and the visual Barry Sonnenfeld of Men in Black fame.
Oh wow, that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything you've wanted Tim Burton to be, but Tim Burton has failed to be, like that sort of very distinctive, creative visual style. And the story is fun. I mean, the Neil Patrick Harris is great. Guest stars have included Alfre Woodard, who yes, I will see anything Alfre Woodard is in. Like, she's amazing. Joan Cusack is in it.
Perfect.
So it's just great. Even if you're not a kid, even if you don't have a kid, even if you don't have knitting to get accomplished, check out
knitting and watch this show.
Check out a series of Unfortunate Events. And I also wanted to give a shout out. I went to a networking event and I met a lovely woman named Maeve, who has a very ambitious and interesting podcast of her own called Not Your Boyfriend's Sports Show. So please check that out. Leave her a review if you like it. It's a really great and ambitious thing that she's trying to do. So I want to support her.
Awesome. And it's basically about sports.
Women's sports.
Women's sports.
Women's sports.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of Movies That Matter. If you did, Stacey will tell you all the ways you can get in touch.
Yes, we are social now. We are officially social. So we're on the Facebook. We're on the Twitter. We're on for all two of you who have Google Plus, we're on there. And
and Google thanks you for hanging in there.
Yes, exactly. They appreciate your support. And
tell them we said so.
Yeah, indeed. And if you prefer email updates, you can sign up for those too. And you can find all of this on the website at moviesthatmatterpodcast.com.
Yeah, check us out. Comments are still open if you want to shout at us on the website as well.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Oh, and leave an iTunes review.
Mm-hmm. And remember, movies matter.
And so do you.
Get you next time. Hello, Movies That Matter fans. If you leave us a review in iTunes and include a recommendation, we'll declare you our Overanalyst of the Week and read your recommendation in the next episode at the end of the show. iTunes reviews really help us out and make it possible for new listeners to discover the podcast. It only takes a minute and it's totally free to do. So thanks for your help.